So we've got to do a little sketching first. Got a nice dark pencil so you can see it. You do not have to paint this dark, right? Or draw this dark. I just want to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a guide here and just sort of draw out the shapes first so I can make sure I've got everything on the page. This one's a little straighter. 3, you know, I think I can, obviously I can change this however I want. These have been in my refrigerator for 2 weeks. How ridiculous is that? She can't manage to cook them. Okay. All right. When you're drawing, right, that's light drawing right now, and I'll get a little darker so you can see it. But I don't want to smudge my pencil, so I'm going to put a paper towel down, and I'm just going to start, you know, I think I want to make them a little bit bigger than the actual asparagus. And I'm gonna, right, what I'm wanting to do is just an outline, so you can look, you know, whatever you're looking at, you want to do kind of like a little bit of a coloring book sort of outline for yourself, so you know kind of where everything is. You don't need to do any shading or anything like that. You just want it just to be a little bit of a guide here. So what's fun is you really get to kind of see, you know, observe this, right? We're kind of, this time we are sort of trying to do a botanical illustration a little bit. And I'm just kind of going up here. These are getting smaller and smaller. And, you know, depending on what you're working on, you want to see if there's any sort of pattern in how things are formed, right? You know, these guys, the little tips of the asparagus seem to be kind of like sort of, oh, they spiral around. That's what they do. Kind of every other one here. I hope you can see it. Good. All right. And maybe what I'll do is I'll just draw out a few, and then or 2, and I can start painting, and that way we can go. So as you're going to paint, right, I want you to think about, you know, laying things out, right? If you're going to do a still life with a few objects, you know, you want an interesting composition. So, you know, odd numbers of things are better than even numbers, and you know, you want to lay out the page to make it you know, as big as possible on the page, and you know, interesting to the maybe different kinds of shapes of things, or anyway, I just want you to be aware of that as you're kind of deciding how to draw things out. Right, let me do this one curly one because I really like this one here, and then we'll stop. I was thinking this would be fun to paint really big too, just like 3 giant stalks of it. So let's see. Okay. Yeah. Curvy. Right, and you know, we're going to be painting things that are, you know, I would say, you know, kind of, you know, if you're painting a carrot, right, it's just going to be orange. And what we are going to need to do is to add you know, more colors than just orange. We want to make this sort of very, you know, interesting. So I'm going to, you know, I've got these green asparagus, but I want to punch up the color and make it, you know, more interesting. I don't want to use just green on this. Okay, let's just start with those. Huh? Okay. So I have a lot of options here, right? Many ways to do this. Um, I could mask out some of the purple. I don't even know what those are called. Little leaves or whatever they are. I'm going to wet my paint here. All right, get everything going. You know, I've got a lot of green. I've also got this quinacridone gold. I'm almost wondering if it might be fun to kind of start with that. You know, I can actually paint around these little guys. I've marked them out so well. So I'm going to put a little of this yellow on. Give me an undercolor here. And then I'll add some green as I go. Let me see. Okay. Let's check that out. You know, you can put a little color on and then use some water. Just kind of hold this up. I don't want to paint really detailed. We'll try and do a loose picture here. I love that there's a little bit of purple down at the bottom of the stalks. So let me see what I've got here. Try a couple of different colors to see which one I like. You know, I'm putting in more purple than is actually here. And I should probably wait because it's all wet and sort of blooming and going all over the place. I also have some interesting greens. So I'm going to try this guy, which seems to be very kind of a nice asparagus color. This is called green gold. It's another Daniel Smith color, but we're going to want a few other things also. Take a little sap green here. Okay. It seems slightly less choppy video. All right, it's very, you know, the sap green is a little too bright. I think I need to tone it down a bit. Let's try a little burnt sienna. Or we could also start to, well, we'll see. We could also use a little Prussian blue, something like that. Although I think this is working okay. So I'm gonna, right now everything's wet, so I'm not gonna be able to get any kind of detail. And in fact, I'm gonna put my color on and then add a little more water so that things kind of loosen up a little bit. You know, if you can also put out your, you know, your vegetables and see if you can get a nice raking light on them, you know, you're going to end up with some shadows on one side, and that's going to be, you know, make for a more interesting painting too. So think about, you know, your lighting if you can. Okay, I'm going to fix that. Oh, that green was just too bright right there. Even keep trying to take it off. Okay. So, sap and a little burnt sienna. You know, and as this starts to dry, I can kind of put in a few more details here. Like that, right? Take out something off if you don't like it. In fact, that was kind of nice. Let's see. Let's see what happens. We don't have to do this all in one layer, right? So I'm actually gonna lighten this up a little bit. All right, let's try another one. Let's see what we can do. Right, I'm always just experimenting at the same time as we're painting. So this time I'm going to use just the sap green and the burnt sienna first. And maybe we'll add a little greenish gold later. Let's see. This is interesting. It makes it's much more of a kind of an olive color. You know, I always like to kind of add other colors at the same time. I don't want to paint with just one color, one tone. I'm going to get a little something else. So here's that green gold again. We'll just put a little of that in. Go back to this. You know, it's also really fun is to kind of do, right, you can actually do an outline around it and then take some water and just feather that edge, and you end up with kind of a nice edge where it's a little slightly darker on the outside, so the paint kind of stays on the edge. Let's throw a little more water in here. I think it might be nice to, let's see if we can kind of, I'm going to try and create a bloom on purpose here, right? We're going to try and paint this a little looser than I normally paint. Let's go for some blooms here. It would be nice when there's actually vegetables out in the garden. Okay. Now, while that's still drying, I'm kind of experimenting with my purples here to see which one is going to work the best. Let's try. That's not right. Okay, looking for my colors here. It's not what I'm looking for. All right, a little more purple. It's still too wet. I'm gonna have to wait or take some water off. Now let's see if I can get maybe a bloom going here. If it's almost dry, right, that's when you have a better luck creating the blooms. And I do like blotting it. It seems to be nice also. So I'm going to come in and do that again. So I'm liking how it makes it a little more irregular. Less regular? I guess maybe that's a better phrase. All right, let's try another one here. I've got some sap green. Let's see what the sap green, leaf green. Let's see what the leaf green does. So let's try that too. Okay. So this is much brighter green. So, if you're painting something like, apple, and it's got kind of red and green in it together, you know, you can sort of add them side by side and let the colors kind of mix together a little bit. Okay. There's more water. Right, so this is right now just one color, just sap green, which is why it's so boring. There's some more. Put the purple down here. It's nice. The purple and the green actually go really nicely together. Feather that up. And let's try, here's that sap green, the burnt sienna, right? That kind of tones it down a little bit. So let's see if I can, that's too brown. Just change that a little bit. Move this up. Pretty funny. Yeah. I can also add, you know, a little bit of yellow, right? If I want to try and get things a little brighter. Pop in a little yellow here. That's kind of nice. So the thing is, you know, if you're painting something that's red, you don't want to add just red the whole time. If you're painting something green, you don't want to use just green. You want to have your colors a little more interesting, you know, add some other, you know, colors that kind of blend with what you've got. And that's going to make this, you know, more interesting. And again, you know, I'm just dropping the color in, right? So it's not like I'm trying to blend it. I want to be able to see this color too. You know, this one is a little too smooth, so let's see if we can create a few blooms there. Kind of fun. Yeah, let's try the purple, add the little purple one. Ah, there's another there. I guess they're leaves. Okay, so I'm going to pick the areas that are a little drier right now. Ooh, that's fine. Kind of a nice combination of colors, you know. And I think it might be nice to have it sort of bleed a little bit. I think that might be kind of fun. So it's okay if it's, you know, a little wet. Let's see. And maybe we come back and, you know, lighten some of this up. Take a little color off so it's not so even. Let's see here. You know, I'm happy with this flat brush at the moment. It seems to be working well because of the shape, you know. So if you're painting something round, you can use a round brush, and if it's, you know, something nice and long, use a flat. Okay, now I've added a lot more purple than this actually is, so I'm going to have to tone that down a little bit too. Let's go back and we'll add a little green to the purple. It's going to turn it slightly browner. And I think I'm going to want to get it a little darker as well, but I'm going to wait. We'll let this dry first. But we're getting some nice little blooms in there, right? We're kind of just doing a little sketch here, a little study, loose study. You know, this is also, you could add a little pen line to this later on if you wanted to. I think we're kind of going for sort of an illustrated look, maybe. I'm not going to add the shadow on the behind these guys. Oh, although actually it might be fun. Let's see. As I say, right? But we have to wait on that. Okay, so a couple of these are green, I'm realizing, as I just kind of keep putting the purple on because I really like purple. A little darker green up here. Let's go back to the sap green. Get those stalks a little darker at the top. And I can, you know, might even come back and take a little color out after it's dried a little bit. Let's see, now I've got a little sap green and some red on my brush, so it's making it a little browner, less purple. Go back to the purple for some. All right, if you go out of the lines, just take a little paper towel and just fix it up a little bit. Oops, that was interesting. Yeah. Okay. We'll get the sap green again. And let's start right oh, not too thin. Okay. So I still need to tone it down. It's definitely my green needs a little bit of red in it. Right. Sometimes, you know, you put a color on that's right out of your palette and it's too clean, right? It needs to get toned down a little bit. Usually that's you know, going to make things more interesting and less right, fake looking, right? We want to try and match the actual colors here. Yeah. Trying to get those little things to point out since they're the most interesting part. Okay, it's still a little wet. I didn't have to tape it down because I'm not painting all the way out to the edge. Let's see if we can get a little bit more. You know, as I'm going here, things are starting to dry, which is nice. So we can add another layer onto things, or even take some of that off. Make that one a little lighter. I just don't want to scrub, right? I want to be careful that when I add my other colors that whatever I'm putting on just kind of blends in with what's already there. I'm not going to scrub. So here's my sap green, and it's a little too bright. So that's why we're adding a little of that purple to it, just kind of tones it down quite a bit. Trying to get this kind of pointy. So now I'm, starting to look and see where things are, where there's maybe a little bit of shading or what's on here. Where the little leaves and the stems connect, it's a little darker there. But I'm also going to use some water. Just a little more purple up here. I'm not going to be able to put in any real detail for a little while because it's still wet. Let's see if we can get this dark green here to show up a little bit more. Add more water so we can get another bloom going. Go back and actually add a little more sap green. So I'm drying my brush off, and I'm just going to put a little more on there. Let's see. And right. Oh, it's still too dark, too green. Let's see. Get rid of that line right there. All right. Well, I need to let these dry, I think. So I'm gonna see what everybody's doing. So let me just put a little bit on right there. Yeah, maybe I'll let those dry. All right. So, always, right? Things dry lighter. So I need to come back in, right? These definitely look like they've been in the fridge too long. All right, there we go. So we gotta punch up that color a little bit. And I think that, let's see if we can mix a little sap green and a little leaf green together. Let's see what that does. I'm gonna, keep thinning it out. I put this up so you can see. There is a little slight shadow on the right side of this, so I'm going to start on the right here. Let me take a little water out of this so I have some more control. I'm going to come around and just give it a little bit more color on one side, and then I'll feather it over with some water. So here's just water. And that's nice. I'm starting to get a little, shading, and it's kind of showing that it's, curved a little bit now. We could get a little bit darker, but we'll leave it at the moment. Let's see, let's just do the next one here. So I've gone back to trying to make it a little brighter. But what's nice is we've got all this other, other color underneath first. So even that is going to tone down this bright green that we're putting on. And a little paint and then a lot of water just to pull it around. We could still try some blooms. I keep forgetting. This one's got a nice kind of dark base bottom, so I'll add a little more green. It does not have to be perfect, right? We should loosen up a little bit here. I can add a little of the green to the purple bits. But we've still got a little bit of the yellow still shows through, which is nice. This definitely needs this needs a little bit of that green on the top, because it was a little slightly too kind of grayish brown, grayish purple. Let's get a little more water in there. This is getting kind of dense. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to scrub a little bit up there, see if we can get some of those shapes back in. Okay, so back to the, too bright. Sap green and leaf green together. Ooh, that's too dark. Okay, so we put it on, and now we just grab some water. Kind of soften it up, right? So what I'll do is, if I put on too much, if it's too dark, just pull some off and use it further down. Just kind of borrow a little bit more. And this one, I'm looking at it and seeing that it is it's more yellow down at the bottom, lighter down here. So maybe we'll leave that. Yeah, I like that. Right, a little lighter down here. Maybe it needs a tiny bit more of the yellow. 2 yellows. Let's see about this. It's kind of fun. This is nice. The yellow, made it a little more purple down here too. Okay, so I'm liking that. This is that quinacridone gold. We're just starting just trying to make these interesting, right? We don't want to paint them all the same. We want them to all look like individual pieces of asparagus. It's kind of fun. Right, I can see, looks like maybe the tips of these things are a little bit darker. So we'll come in with a little extra color here. Right, and then just, again, feather it down so we don't have any hard lines on anything. Yeah, let's see. This one is a little bit lighter. So we can I'm kind of scrub that one a little bit. Maybe take a little of that color off. And let's just try adding a little bit of maybe pale purple. But you know, it's really fun when you start to add some blooms and the paint kind of goes to the outside edge as it's drying, and that makes for a really interesting watercolor. You want to have it look. You want the paint to move and look like it sort of happened naturally. There's a little more brown. Try it. I'm putting a little burnt sienna in now on those leaves. That's kind of fun too. So try a few different things and see what works. Yeah, the burnt sienna is nice also. It's on top of the purple, so it's not like it's totally brown. I don't want to paint them all the same either. I'm trying to make everything slightly different. Pretty light. Let's try a little. All right, I think the purple is better up here. Okay. A little bit on, and then here's the water to kind of soften that edge. Just more bits of purple. These are quick. Not much to them. Okay. All right, so I've just gone and made them all the exact same color. So I don't know why I did that. All right, let's have a look. Back in now with a little more yellow in the next one here. Right. It's okay to do this if it's dry enough that you're not pulling up what is underneath. Right? So that's the important thing, is make sure things are dry before you start adding another layer. You don't want to be pulling up the paint that's already on there. So, and if things are starting to get a little dull, like anything red, the opera pink will really brighten things up. Actually, it brightens things up with everything. I should try some on here. If you're working with the yellow, the burnt sienna will actually brighten things up. The opera as well. Something green. The cerulean blue is a really nice color to add. It's kind of cute. Let me see. I said I was gonna. Let's try a little blue. Let's see what that does. These are very kind of yellowy green, so it might not work, but we'll give it a try. Okay, so I've got a little cerulean in here, and I'm going to kind of, it's very bright, use it as sort of my shadow color. So it's going to make things a little bit greener. That's on top of the yellow and green that's already there, right? It just kind of Gives you more of a bluish green. It's okay. There's a little more sap green. Yeah, and you can just, you know, put something on and let it blend in. That's nice too. Let the water do the work. Let's see, a little darker here. Fun. Let's see. Let's let those dry. And how about we try get this guy out. I wanted to show you this one too. This is a old picture, you know, and I set everything up with a little tablecloth. Took my time. It's got a little, you know, lots of blue shadows, and nice kind of blue shadows on the garlic. Anyway, so rather than, you know, have a white, you know, background here, you know, you can add something to your painting. You know, you can put a background on. And I'm gonna try. I would have painted it kind of all at the same time. I mean, I had it set up, so I had this tablecloth out, and I'm just trying to see here. You know, I would have started the vegetables first, absolutely. You can work any way, right? It's okay to put it on after, or work on it at the same time. The shadows would have been put on at the, you know, last bit. And, you know, everything got sketched out. We'll see. Maybe what we can do is, you know, put this out, draw this out, and then try and do a background on it. Let me see. Maybe we'll try it a little bit smaller. Let me fold this in half a little. Running out of room. Okay, a little better here. Let's see if we can get that to show up. Oops. Okay. Find that pencil. All right, so I'm going to try and make sure I get to have this fit on the page here. Give you guys some room. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So when I sketch very loosely, right? Just to see, make sure I can kind of get everything on the page. And then I come back in and fix everything. So I don't usually, again, draw with this really dark pencil. right? So that's a problem because it's gonna smudge. Let's see, put in a little garlicky things, and you know, just as long as you've got it on the page first, then kind of come in and sort of define that outline a little bit more. So how long do you think I've had this onion? A little shallot, so cute. You know, it's fun because of the colors, right? It's kind of pink, and the onions are really have such gorgeous color. Let's see here. All right. Now I am painting now. This is the not so great paper. So I'm not going to be able to do a lot of layers because this is the paper where it just kind of sits on a surface. This is the Fabriano. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I'm going to try my little filbert here. And, I could kind of go around and just start with like where I think some yellow might be, like add sort of an undertone of color. Although I'm not going to be able to. Do a lot here. All right, here's our green. Screens. This is a fast one because I can't layer on this paper. Darker green here, or blue. Blue would have worked a little better. Take a little sienna. Drop some on here. Yeah, important to get that nice and round. Let's see if we can get a nice little edge on the onion skin. Now this is going to, kind of bleed together because everything's still wet. And maybe I need to let this dry a little. Let's try. Let's add a little more. Let's see. Let me do that first. And we've got the garlic's really pretty. It's so the colors are so delicate, You can see like a little purple, and right, you can leave things. You use the white of the paper also. There's my shallot. Darker. It's purple. It's quite purple in there. So, you really want to just sort of notice, have an idea of what color, you're going for before you start to put your paint down, right? Really kind of decide, how red something is or how purple something is. And be kind of conscious of what you're trying to duplicate, right? The shallot skin looks a little kind of pinky to me. Let's see if we can get this a little regular. And more here. Okay, so willow. This one, I should have taken this skin off of this one. It's much prettier without the skin on it. Right, so kind of actually the same thing that we did with the asparagus. I'm going to paint the outside edge, and now here's just some water coming in. Let's keep a little, we'll make it a little more purple anyway. And, I see a little blue on the garlic. Yellow. This kind of all bled, but that's okay. Maybe we can get that a little darker here. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna let it dry a little bit. I want to do those shadows too. So let's see. The purple, right? Our dioxazine purple is also a great color for shading. Let's see here. If you paint a shadow nice and wet, you can actually drop a few different colors in. What am I looking for? To drop it. Yeah, so I got some purple. I'm so bad at taking pictures that actually have shadows in them. So I often will use make my shadows blue. Even though they look kind of gray if you really try to notice. I always want to add more color than what you see. So I almost never do a gray shadow, right? The blue is going to work as a shadow color anyway, and so that it just makes things more interesting. And the purple is great too. So the Prussian makes a great shadow. You could even you can wet the where the shadow is, and even drop some color in. Kind of put it like right underneath whatever it is whatever the object is. And it doesn't have to be, one, again, it doesn't have to be just one color. It can be a few. So let's see here. This is fun. And the way shadows kind of work is, the closer they are to the object, right, the darker they are, and then the further away, right, sort of the lighter they get. So I'm actually just using some water right now. I'm kind of just pulling that out. Let's fix that a little bit. Right, so this will be a softer shadow there. And the same thing over here. Right? These are going to be a little lighter. It's just about observation, right? The more you notice, the more accurate you can paint. Let's get this a little lighter. Pull it down a little bit. Some shadows in here too. A little further back. Something back here. Let's see if we get some more shadow here. Oops. This is the paper that's not really letting me do a lot of layers. Like the paint just comes right back up. Let me, if I can just barely put stuff on, and if I touch it too much, I'll kind of lose it all. This is more like sketch paper, I guess. Right. So, I need to get this guy darker. So my shallot shows up. In general, right, the dark shadows should all be kind of similar in color. Let's see, get a little more over here. Okay, we got a little. Not sure how wet this is, but let's see if we can get a little detail on the onion. Right, so I'm, I should have do a little more on this, but a few lines. It's always fun to, make things not look perfect, right? So we got some little dots here. Make a little bit of a root. Darker here. That needs more color. It's not bright enough, right? It needs more Let's see. I've got some yellow ochre, which is a little more, you know, kind of opaque, but it's going to be a good color for this. And I'm going to add some more here. I like my onion was too boring. You know, when everything dries too light, then that makes it's always annoying. So this is a little more burnt sienna, kind of. That's a lot of burnt sienna. Yeah. Let's see if we can get a few little lines on the garlic. Right? I mean, everything's a illusion, right? We're taking something that's 3 dimensions and we're turning it into 2 dimensions. So, you know, we're trying to just teach or, you know, show, you know, the viewer what we see, right? And you know, so right, we're trying to do the curve of the lines on the onion is going to make it look rounder. I'm going to add some blue to this. These guys need some blue here. Darker there. Right, and you're gonna, you know, keep looking at things, right? You know, you're not able to get it all in one sitting, right? There's, even though it's just vegetables, there's a lot to see. I like my shadow. Ooh, the shadow here got too dark, so I'm gonna re-wet it. Take a little bit of that off. See, this is it's the not good paper. You can see how easily that just came off. Get a few little lines on that skin right there. Almost dry, but not really. Burnt sienna is really fun. This is definitely a little more pink here. And there's a little bit of a highlight on the onion, right? So here's some water, making a big bloom right there. See how bad that turns out. So the purple is really good to add to alizarin crimson, or blue too. Like, yeah, the Prussian would work. or try both and see which one you like. Yeah. Um, so that'll make it go a little more to the purple side, right? Both of those will turn it more purple. Let me show you. This is how you can tell this is the bad stuff, because the bad paper, because it's easy to have it come right off. It's a little lighter over here. Let's see. Scrub that a bit. Let's get a highlight there too. Left a little bit of white here, trying to look like a highlight. Fun. There's lots of little bits of onion skin everywhere, so we can put some more bits down. This might be a fun one to actually do some spatter. It could be cute. Even my lime looks a little sad. All right, let's see. We can do. Let me share my screen again. Okay, that's a lime. Let's do this on some good paper. Here's the back of something we'll use. Okay. Okay, let's see. Here we get the lime. So yeah, it's got all these little divots in it. Pencil. Okay. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Now, the other thing is, we're not really doing a rendering, so stay. So, not you. So don't feel like you've got to show every little bit of this, and have it really show up and be perfect, right? But let's just see. Again, this is another one where you can start with some yellow, right? Because, it's got the yellow kind of underneath it. So put a little of that on. And then go, hey, stay. You have to hold it. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so we got, I'm going to put on a little green. Looks like it's going to need a little sap green also down here. Right. Kind of let that sort of blend a little bit on its own. Move it up and have it move around a little. Can leave a few little white bits. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. All right, and as we did that, I'm starting to think some other ways that we could do this. Again, we've got that sap green, and it's a little too green. So take a tiny bit of burnt sienna, right? And that's going to tone it down a little bit. You know, you can mix it on the paper or not, but anyway, we'll try and get a little shadow on here. Now, if you're, you know, we used the credit card on the elephant, right? So how about we try, this is just the, yeah, that's gonna work, I think. Just using the end of my paintbrush, right? Whatever is got a little nice little point on it. And as this dries, we're gonna have it, paint's gonna go into those little wells that we're making here. And get a little lines on there. Once this dries too, you know, you could go in and add a little bit of water just as it's about to dry and kind of take some of this off to get a few little of the white ones that are up at the top because of a reflection. But we can, you know, we want to wait on that until it's all dry. But this works actually pretty well. They're going to show up a little bit more as we go, as it darkens and dries up. But, anyway, I think that could work. I should have done the whole class in my Julia Child voice.